Hey, welcome back to my channel Endless Pages. I'm Liv and welcome to today's video, which is my reading wrap up for the month of May. Okay, so May was a brilliant reading month. I have not read like this in such a long time and oh my god, did I have the best month. So at the start of May, if you watched my TBR video, you might remember that I didn't set like a TBR, I just did like a tentative TBR, like here's some books I kind of want to check out. And I was like, I'm just going to take it easy this month. We're not going to force any prompts or anything like that. And then I was watching some reading sprints because I was aware that the Readathon Witchathon created by Jan Reader was happening. But I was like, no, I just won't do it. And then the people I watch, Ashley from Ashley's Media Addiction, was like a leader of one of the teams. And the lovely Aussie Merb from Reading with Merb was like a kind of leader of the team, and I was in their reading sprints one night and they were talking about their points, and I don't know what happened. All of a sudden I was like, you know what, I'm joining this team, because like all the Aussies and Ashley were on one team. I was like, now I'm getting a bit of FOMO, so like I don't know, a quarter of the way through the month I decided to join and compete in Witchathon. So Witchathon was basically a teams-based readathon. Each team had their own bingo board of prompts, and you could get points basically based on how many pages you read, and there was bonus tarot pool points you could get, and bonus points from bonus prompts decided by your team leaders. And Meredith and Ashley did so many fun reading sprints for it, so it was honestly the funnest readathon I've ever participated in, just because of like the team aspect. And can I just say, I've never been more motivated to read, because the points were averaged out based on how many people you had in the team and how much you read. I was like, I don't want to let the team down. Like I need to read, and oh my god, did it work. So like I said, because it was a team-based readathon, I've never read so much. Like it's been a while since I've read that much in a month. I read 8 books, which is, I know doesn't sound like a lot, but for me in 1 month is absolutely incredible. And the quality of what I was reading as well was probably a big help. Oh my god, I can't wait to tell you guys about what I read. I think this is the most I've read in ages. I know in December last year I read like 12, but that was majority manga and graphic novels. This was like 8 novels. So happy with my month. So let's actually just get into the books, enough of me rambling. So the first 2 books I read in May, I can't tell you guys about yet. I know, I'm keeping it a secret. It's for a secret reading blog. I'm making it sound like it's a major big deal, but it's literally an idea. It's not an original idea. I can bet that there's plenty of other reading blogs out there with this same idea. But yeah, the first 2 books I read in May were for that reading blog. I am kind of struggling with it because it's putting me out of my comfort zone in terms of what I'm reading a little bit, which is good and bad. Good in that it's, you know, a fun video for me to read, and I'm you know, trying different books that I normally probably wouldn't just pick up if I wasn't doing it for this vlog, which is good. But at the same time bad, because it's taken me so long to film. I've only read 2 out of the planned 6. And I've soft DNF'd 1, so it's not going great. But yeah, the first book I read for that one got I'll just say got 3 stars, and the second one I read for that got 4 stars. So that was how I started out the month. I'd say keep an eye out for the vlog, but honestly it's probably not going to be out for like 6 months. Okay, next up I picked up a thriller. I don't know why I picked this up. I think, if I'm remembering correctly, one of the prompts for Witchathon was poll pick, and in the reading sprints I think I gave people 2 options. I can't even remember what the other option was, to be honest, and people picked this one. I think that I'm remembering correctly that this was the poll pick. I can't even remember. This one is The Dry by Jane Harper. This is a thriller by an Australian author. My first time reading Jane Harper. I cannot believe I've waited so long to read this book because, oh my god, I loved it. The Dry is set in Australia. It's set in this farming community. There's this family called the Hadler family, and 3 of the members of the family are found dead. It looks like dear father Luke has shot his wife and one of his children, and then himself. And we follow this investigator from the Australian Federal Police. He's mainly like a financial kind of, I don't know what, I can't remember what they call it, like a financial investigator. So he does like white collar, like kind of crimes. But he used to live in this small farming town when he was a teenager, and the Luke Hadler, the guy that allegedly killed his family and then himself, was his like best friend when he was younger. So Aaron goes back to investigate, was it actually like a murder-suicide, or, you know, did something else go on there? There's also the added story of Luke and Aaron had a secret from their youth that might rise to the surface because of this investigation. This was amazing. I thoroughly enjoyed reading a book in an Australian setting because it's not something I do often. I don't read a lot of Australian literature, which I should be reading because wow, this was so good. This was a really fun and interesting investigation. I really enjoyed it as well because it's not just the investigation, you're bit by bit getting a look into Aaron and Luke's youth and this leading up towards this secret that they keep hinting at. There's also the added tension in the town, which I loved. Is set in this farming community, like I said, that has been struggling with a drought for years, and it's the added tension of this family being murdered and then the tension of this community that is financially struggling so much, and it's just this like ball of tension that feels like it's just about to explode. This was really fast paced as well. Every chapter was giving you little teasers of information, and you just was so desperate to turn the page to put them all together and see how they all worked. And I enjoyed that there was lots of different theories of what happened, and there was one point in the book where I was like, I could believe that it could be any of these things. So I was really shocked by the ending. Absolutely loved the ending. I did not see that coming, and Jane was really good at making me feel like everyone else was guilty, but who actually was guilty, what actually did happen was just like the biggest shock, and it was such an amazing ending. I loved that the investigator had a personal touch in this town, that everyone knew him from his youth, and the tension behind the history of all that made it so much more of an interesting investigation because he knew everyone in the town, he knew them, his past was like linked into it, so that added just so much more fun depth to it. The whole ending was so intense and had this intensity of realizing what's happened and the intensity of kind of that confrontation, and then the environmental, without spoiling, the environmental intensity of like the implications of what could have happened was just like made for such a nerve-wracking, amazing ending. Yeah, this book was amazing. The writing was amazing, the pacing was amazing, the mystery was so fun, the ending had me shook. I gave this book 5 stars, and I am now a Jane Harper stan because oh my god. And this came out as a movie a couple of years ago and I never watched it, so I'm so happy now that I get to go watch the movie. Next up, I read Legends and Lattes by Travis Baldree. This was adorable. I was really scared to pick this one up because I was like, is it gonna be my thing? I feel like it's not gonna be something that I'm gonna like, but boy was I wrong. This is a cozy fantasy. We follow Viv here, who has spent her life chasing bounties, and she wants to retire from that, hang up her sword and move into a new phase of her life. And she decides to open up a little coffee shop. This book is so heartwarming and bloody adorable, and I had a big goofy grin on my face the whole time I was reading this. It felt like a warm hug. It was so beautiful and so comforting. I don't like coffee, but like I want to like coffee after reading this book. Like the comfort and seeing the ways coffee was such a big part of these people's lives and brought comfort and brought people together. Oh my god, was it so good. So yeah, you follow Viv and the people that she meets in this town, kind of the found family that she creates with this coffee shop. It has also a very slow burn romance, which is just fucking adorable. Like, oh my god, a cute little lesbian slow burn romance that is to die for. Yeah, you follow Viv as she evolves and as the coffee shop evolves with her. The collaboration between her, the other person that works there, and the little, eventually the third crew member that they bring on as like a little baker. And yeah, they kind of day to day, and you see their interactions with the different kind of customers that they bring into their coffee shop. The really reluctant ones. They're in this town where no one knows what coffee is. Yeah, and it's just a beautiful book about family and community and love, and yeah, each day they bring in a new item to the recipe, or they discover a new baked item that just brings them so much joy. And oh my god, like I said, this was like a warm hug, and I adored every page of it. There wasn't really heaps of a plot, and that normally, like, I can't do that, but I didn't care. I was so invested in what new drink or new bakery item they were going to add, or what new customer that they were going to interact with, or the progress they made with getting to know a customer. Like, I didn't care that there was no plot. I was invested in the day-to-day of this cafe. This book was a perfect, like, palate cleanser. It was easy read. It was lovely. I had the best time with it, and I read it in like a day and a bit. Like, actually, did I read it in a day? I might have read it in a day. That's how much I loved it. And I don't do that often with books. So this was 5 stars as well. I've never read something so comforting other than Fruits Basket. Like, maybe this was even more comforting than Fruits Basket, honestly. I will be rereading this over and over when I'm sad, or when I just need a hug. It's so cute. Book number 5 was The Magician's Nephew by C.S. Lewis. So I know that this is debated. I think technically on Goodreads this says this is book number 6 in the Narnia series, but according apparently to C.S. Lewis, he wanted you to read it in publication order, which would be this as number 1. So I read so many different opinions on which way to read it, and just said, fuck it, I'm reading this one first. So that's what I did. I'm really glad I actually ended up reading this one before I read The Lion, the Witch and the Wardrobe, because in this one you find out kind of, you're there at the beginning of Narnia, at the very start of the world. So I really loved reading it this way. So now I know how Narnia was created. I was there for the start. And yes, I'm really glad I read this one first. So I agree, read this one before you read The Lion, the Witch and the Wardrobe. This is basically about Diggory and Polly. They're 2 like little kids that live next to each other. Diggory has this really awful uncle who thinks he's a magician, sends them hurtling off into this world where they encounter this sorceress who is very evil, and then they all kind of get dragged. Accidentally they discover Narnia. So it's about the creation of Narnia and dealing with this evil sorceress. This was a whole lot of fun. When I picked up this book, I was like, I've been reading a lot, I want to keep the momentum going, but I don't want to push myself. So I was like, a middle grade, something easy. Something that I'm not overburdening myself with fantasy book after thriller after all these, you know, books where I was really focusing on them. So I wanted something easier, and that's why I picked up a middle grade. This was a lot of fun. It was just a fun, wholesome adventure with, you know, the beautiful messages that come in middle grade books. This edition also has these absolutely gorgeous, like, old school like illustrations. It's not showing it, doing it justice on the camera, but like they were absolutely gorgeous and really added to the story experience. Yeah, I read this really quickly. It was an easy read. It was a fun time, and I again was so glad I was able to see and be there for the start of Narnia. That was very cool. And it I mean, obviously I've already watched the Narnia movie, so I know the Narnia story. But it just added even more depth to my understanding of the Narnia movie and how certain things got there, if that makes sense without spoiling. So I think I will be jumping into the sequel this month because I'm filming on the 1st of June. But yeah, I had a great time with this, and it was fun to start the Narnia series with a story that I didn't quite know yet. I think I forgot to say I also rated this 5 stars. Next up, I read The Night Swim. This is the first book in the Rachel Crawl series. This is by Megan Goulden, who is an Australian author. So 2 Australian authors this month. Look at me go. This is like a thriller series. I listened to this on audiobook, which is rare for me. I don't listen to heaps of audiobooks, but I specifically wanted to listen to this one on audiobook because I saw on someone's YouTube comments or something, I saw it in a video somewhere, that this book should be read in audio form. This is because it is about Rachel, who is the creator of this really popular podcast that kind of went viral called Guilty or Not Guilty. and she has investigated 2 crimes in the past, and she is just about to start working on her current season 3, which is following a rape trial in this small town. So the book is, well, the audiobook, I should say, has 3 narrators, which is so cool. So the reason people say listen to this on audio form is because of the podcast aspect. So you have some chapters that are Rachel, some chapters that are you're listening to the podcast, which I absolutely love. And then there was another perspective. Rachel is on her way to this small town to cover the rape trial, and she gets this note left on her car addressed to her, which is really strange because although her podcast has gone viral, she's never put her face out there, just her voice, so no one should know what she looks like. And this letter is written from this woman who says that her sister was murdered in this town years ago, the same town that the rape trial is happening in. The official report says that she was swimming at night and drowned, but her sister said nope, that is not what happened, she was murdered. So the book basically follows Rachel as she covers 1, the rape trial, and 2, as she slowly kind of starts to investigate this drowning / murder, as she gets letters left for her around the town by this alleged victim's sister. So this book was absolutely beautiful. I really enjoyed it because it was a big commentary around how rape trials are covered, how they're viewed compared to like a murder trial morally, and the kind of struggle around basically a lot of the time it being he said, she said kind of thing, especially in this small town where everyone knows everyone, and the alleged perpetrator is this beloved swimmer who's going to go to the Olympics, you know, has powerful parents and is loved in the town. So it's really great commentary on that around believing women's stories, around the horrendously traumatic experience of proving that, of rape test, of stuff like that. So I will say, please don't read this book before you check the trigger warnings, because there is discussions of violence, rape, all of that kind of surrounding stuff. So I felt that this book was so fast paced because there was 2 mysteries side by side. I think if it was just covering the trial, I would start to get a little bit slow, because I would start to get a little bit bored, just because of the pacing. But because there was 2 mysteries, the pacing was so good. Because the cases were set in the same town, there was links between, you know, people that were in that town when they were younger are still there as adults. So Rachel gets to kind of interact with people that knew of this alleged victim, Jenny, who drowned, and that kind of tied in with the commentary around treatment of women and yeah, that's all I'll say without spoiling, but there is links, and it was all so clever how it all kind of came together. I loved the perspective of the letters. So the letters took you back to Jenny's childhood with her sister. Those letters were absolutely beautifully written. I loved the writing of this whole book. It was absolutely beautiful. It was beautiful and descriptive, but at the same time brought in real world issues. Yeah, so the ending had me shook. I did not see it coming. I absolutely adore this whole book. The narrators were absolutely brilliant, especially the narrator who did the podcast sections. That was so fun, and I love anything that has that kind of almost multimedia feel to it with you listening to the podcast. I absolutely adore books that have that in it, so it was already going to get a good rating just because of the awesome podcast element. Yeah, so it felt like you were listening to a true crime podcast, and I absolutely loved that. I also gave this book 5 stars, continuing my amazing reading month. I absolutely loved this. It was beautiful. I love the commentary. I love the writing. I love the narrators. It was so good, and the ending had me shook. The 7th book I read in May was Heroes of Olympus by Rick Riordan. I finally picked this book up, my god, and this was actually on my tentative TBR video, so I did read one from that video, so I feel like that's an accomplishment in itself. I basically picked this one up because I wanted to get some chunky points for Witchathon, and I'm so glad that I did end up picking this up. This is the next series on from the Percy Jackson series. I was really terrified to pick this up because I was like, what if I hate it? What if this ruins like the Percy Jackson world for me? What if I don't like it as much as Percy Jackson? So I was very much in the comparing it kind of point of view. This book follows 3 new demigods. We have Jason, there goes my phone, Leo and Piper, though we do have appearances from beloved people from the Percy Jackson series, so I did appreciate that. Yeah, like I said, I was really nervous to pick this one up. I did end up absolutely loving this one though, so the fear was absolutely wrong, and I'm so glad that I decided to face it and actually read this. So basically it's the same premise of the first book. We have these 3 friends that go on this fun quest, but there's some new added aspects that I think kept it fresh and felt that it made it like not like repetitive, if you know what I mean, like not just the same thing as Percy Jackson over again. It had new elements that really kept me interested. I can't really say what those new elements are without spoiling, but it's gonna make this so much fun. There was so much mystery in this one, which I really enjoyed as well. Yeah, I feel like this really separated itself from Percy Jackson with still tying it in. It's like, yeah, this is still connected to Camp Half-Blood. It's still set in the same world, but it's really its own thing, and such a cliffhanger ending. Like, oh my god, there's this mystery that's kind of going on throughout the book that's kind of, the campers realize at the end what actually is going on, and it shook me. It was such a new fun added element that's going to add depth to this series, so I really enjoyed that. I rated this 4 stars. I don't think I'm ever gonna say it's as good as Percy Jackson, but it was still so much fun. A really well written middle grade series. My only kind of issue was with the character Piper. She was really annoying. For the most of the book, like, her perspective started to annoy me a little bit, and I was like, oh my god, shut up. But she has like growth, which is good, but she's kind of boy crazy the whole book, which is kind of annoying. And got a little bit repetitive, so maybe that's why I didn't give it 5 stars, just because Piper annoyed me a bit. But she had growth, and I liked the very different, what's the word I'm looking for? Different vibe to the group and different personalities compared to our trio from Percy Jackson. They're all very different people, bring different things to the group, different banter, different vibe, which I enjoyed as well. Yeah, so this new plotline's gonna be crazy fun. It feels dark and dangerous and fun, and I really liked how this book set itself apart from Percy Jackson, made itself something new, but still having that same feeling, you know, appearances from characters that we love, that same quest element, but just made it, yeah, I really enjoyed this. It was a fun time, and I'm glad Piper finally shut up because she was annoying me. So yeah, I gave Heroes of Olympus 4 stars. I will definitely be picking up the next book as soon as I can. And then we get to book number 8. This is Force of Nature by Jane Harper. You may recognize the author because I just talked about The Dry by Jane Harper earlier on. This is its sequel. This is the second book in the Arena Folk series. Although it is the same investigator, it is a brand new investigation, though it is set after this book. So this is set in Australia again, in the bush this time. We have 5 women who work for the same company go on this kind of team building exercise in the bush where they go on this bushwalk. 5 women go out, but only 4 women return. The person that doesn't come back from the walk is a woman called Alice, and Alice is a whistleblower. She is working with Aaron and his partner to pretty much help them bring down the company that she works for, that they are investigating for financial crimes. So is the whole time we have to figure out, 1, is Alice alive? Where is Alice? Is this missing case linked to the financial investigation, or is it just, you know, coincidence? This book is super scary. Like, it's set in the bush, and you have kind of mainly Aaron's perspective, but then you also jump to perspectives of the woman as you're in the bush, and you follow them day by day, and that's really spaced out as you get mixed pictures and, again, little snippets of what really went down in the bush, what happened, what went wrong, where is Alice, like, what's going on here? So it was also really scary because it's these women that are lost in this bush, and you just picture the Australian bush where it just goes on for miles. Like you don't know if the direction you're walking in is leading you further into the bush or is it getting you closer to civilization. This bush is out in the middle of nowhere. They are running out of food, running out of water, and it's got a little bit of that aspect that I absolutely love in TV shows and books at the moment, is like women get lost together, and even one of the characters describes them as they start to go a little bit feral, which is, you know, a genre that I'm absolutely loving at the moment. Watch them go a little crazy. So that was really fun. Again, how I said with The Dry, how he had a personal connection to the town he was investigating. This time he has another personal investigation because Alice was who he was working with. So he's got that feeling of like, is this linked to the investigation? Like, is part of the reason Alice is lost because of me? So again, it had that fun personal connection to the case, which just really, yeah, I really enjoyed that. We also have Aaron kind of deal emotionally with the consequences, the ending of The Dry. So I felt like it kind of, not closed loose ends, but kind of had him emotionally deal with the trauma and what this brought up in him. So I really enjoyed that added aspect of the kind of emotional stuff that this book brought up, and him kind of slowly dealing with it in this book, which, yeah, was just like not a major part of the plot, but just, you know, kept the investigation a little bit broken up, and it was not just constant like bush stuff, because you'd go in his head a little bit and see how he was feeling the whole time. So kind of humanized him and made you more connected to him, which, you know, is always good. This mystery was so fun. I had a great time with it. The scenes of them in the bush was just like, oh my god, so good. And all the different big personalities, all the guilty looking people again. I was really unsure. I mean, I had theories the whole time again, and the ending really did show, like, it shook me. I didn't see it coming again, and I feel like I should have. Like, this Jane always gets me. She always catches me by surprise in the 2 books that I've read. So again, another 5-star mystery. So atmospheric, so well written, so fast paced, and I am so excited to jump into the 3rd and final book in this. I don't know if it's the final. Maybe, is it not the final? I don't know. Let me know. The 3rd book in this series is called The Exiles, so I'm very much looking forward to reading that. But I can't buy it yet because it's newish, so it's not out in the short edition. First world problems, but I wanted people to feel sorry for me. So that was my absolutely incredible reading month. I had 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 5-star books, like all of these plus The Night Swim. Like, how incredible is that? And then I had 2 4-stars and 1 3-star. Like, holy shit, I cannot believe how much I read this month. I read all of this plus 3 other books. Like, that's so many pages. I think I read over 1,000 pages. This is so good. I have never felt so in love with reading. I am so proud of what I accomplished this month, and I had the best time doing Witchathon. It was so fun going to the sprints, filling out the prompts. It was a good time. So thank you so much for watching this video. I hope you enjoyed. Let me know in the comments, what was the standout book in May for you? How many books did you read? Were you happy with your reading month? As always, all my social media links are in the description below. Give this video a like if you're proud of my reading this month, and subscribe if you'd like to see more of my content. Thank you so much again for watching, and I will see you in whatever the hell I post next. Bye!